Give me 30 more seconds. Give me 30 more seconds. Success. Perfect. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Welcome. We're going to take a different tack a little bit. We're going to talk, but I want to see if we can find some exercises to make it a little bit interactive or to get you to journaling. First of all, I would ask you, and I'll give you a minute, to get a journal or piece of paper because we definitely want to write a few things down this morning. We're going to do some internal reflection. One of the things that we kind of we mention, but I think we bypass, and I want to spend that's really what this session gives us the time to really go back and be a little bit more thorough and intentional about our path and our journey. And I'm talking about our individual path and journey today. I want to focus on values and principles. In fact, three things: character, values, and principles. Me personally, the more experience I have in business and with people and with family, as I get older, I start to realize that character, values, and principles are really the most important thing in a person and in a business relationship, in a personal relationship, with your neighbors. Character, values, and principles are the most important thing. And look, if you're clear, and this is something you think about all the time, that's wonderful because what happens is the more clear you are about your values, that's good, but the more attention you pay to them, the more you look at them, the more you write them and journal them, um, as in the thought matrix, which we'll talk about. The more you write these things down, the more you doodle, the more you contemplate these values and principles that you live by, the more, again, you're activating unseen forces. These values and principles then become absorbed in you. And now, since we did the thought matrix in the, first of all, has everyone looked at the thought matrix? Maybe not read it cover to cover. Is everybody familiar with the thought matrix? And that would be from the book, The Cycle of Mind. In the cycle of mind, we talk about creating a thought matrix. And the thought matrix is a value system. The thought matrix is you deciding on what your values are. So I kind of seed the first several values: gratitude, being thoughtful, being generous, being caring, focusing on your health. These are some core values. There you go. I can't turn my computer around, but I have this beautiful it's on the wall there. It's beautiful, like a painting, except it's like not really on a real canvas. Painting or a poster of my thought of the thought matrix. And so I look at it every day, and I really, I've spent years focusing on this. So once you identify your values and principles, so what I want you to do is I want you to write down what your, I don't know, top 7 or 8 values and principles, and then we'll share them and we'll, just throw them out, and maybe yours will help somebody else, and maybe somebody else will help you land on a few things. But values and principles describe how you make decisions. And let me give you an example of how we're doing that. Well, there's two examples. Number one, as we form the collective, we want to be really, really clear about the values that we stand for, the principles that we follow, the things that are important to us. And tonight at our members meeting, we'll go through that again because I think it's important, and we can go through what other values we need to have as a collective. But it's really important from a collective point of view, particularly because we're dealing with higher dimensional energies, and trying to work and massage and learn how to organize higher dimensional energies. You've got to focus it on something. And when you focus it on something, that something could take you in any direction. But the guide rails on the work that we do are the values and the principles that we follow. The guide rails in your life are the values and principles. If you have no values and principles, then there are no guide rails. Anything goes. Your value might be, making more money. That could be your value. Well, that's not a value, that's a goal. What are the values you're going to pursue in that? So, and I should tell you the example. We have the collective as an example, but also I've mentioned to you, and I'll mention it again because it's actually gaining some traction here. I was asked to join a founding company, an AI technology company, and I've accepted, and I'm putting my whole energy and effort into it. And the first thing I realize, and this work, by the way, is being done primarily in Pakistan, and I'm here to address the US market. And the very first thing, well, it took me about a week to figure this out, but the very first thing that I wanted to put in place, if I'm going to put my name on the line talking to customers, and I'm going to, take their credit cards and charge them for a service, you darn well better believe we need to deliver a high quality service. So we established certain values between the co-founders and that we all agree to. And I'll just share those values with you.
Um,
Number one is, sorry about that. Number one is responsible AI. We're a responsible AI company. I believe AI should enhance human life. It shouldn't replace humans. It should enhance human life. It should enhance human work and human enjoyment. Shouldn't replace those things. There and in being like 10 minutes in the AI industry, I can tell you there are two clear tracks. There's the responsible AI track, which is trying to find applications for artificial intelligence that improve our lives. And then there's the destructive AI track, which looks as AI as like an eraser. How can we erase the most people? So I'm a responsible AI company. I kind of feel like, I have my finger in the dike. The whole thing's about to explode. Just because I'm a responsible AI person doesn't mean that AI isn't going to take over, jobs and eliminate jobs. I can't stop these other negative companies. But for me and my day and my words and my intentions, I intend to bring the benefits of AI to humanity, not the destructive part of it. So I've clearly established my values, and we as a company have established using AI for benefit, even within the collective, even before I got involved in this. We are going to use AI to improve our ability to write books. So responsible AI is one of them. Another one is five-star service. This is a new thing in Pakistan. Like they don't run business like that. They don't really think about this. And so they just blast out emails to the customer, and the customer's all confused, and I'm confused. Say, hey, let's slow down here. Let's start to think about things from the customer's perspective so that everything that we do is geared toward creating a five-star experience. Another one is dignity. We treat our people, our employees with dignity. They share in the success of the projects, and we use money that we make to put it towards good. If we're fortunate, we put that money towards making good in society. These are just examples. Another one is agility. We don't get wrapped up in any one technology because technology is changing very rapidly. So it's not as important as what we do or what technologies we use. It's more important how we do it. It's more important what our goals are. So we have as a company, and it really helps because in all these conversations and all the decisions we make, we can easily reference back to these decisions. Like, no, we really can't. I know that would be a great contract, but that company is a bad AI company and they're trying to put people out of work. So we're just not going to bid on that project. So it actually helps us have conversations internally as a business. So I recommend as a business that you have very clear values. If you're in a business situation, I recommend if you're a parent and you've got family and you live with other people in your house, you should be really clear about the values, and you should be very clear about your own values, your own personal values, your character traits. And any thoughts about that? I want to just, what are your guys' thoughts about that? And what have you experienced with values and principles? What are where do you fall on all that?
I think those are important values. I think having um, honesty, integrity, respect, kindness, generosity, all those are important, whether, personally or in business, especially because, like you said, if you're putting your name and your reputation, signing it to the contract, then that's what it has to have for you. And I think that's a great policy to follow.
Hmm. Do you find, let me ask you this question. Do you
Sure.
find that in your interactions that there are people who don't follow values? Like I know there are, right? But I guess the story that always is impressive to me is like when there's a great athlete, like an incredible or a great, Hollywood star, or someone who's really, really famous and you really like their work and you watch them, you watch their tennis matches or you watch it. When you find out also that that person is a good person, that to me is the greatest feeling because it's somebody you admire and their values are congruent. Like they're a great athlete, a great actor, and they're a good person. Because there's so many people who are great athletes, great people, famous people that you want to admire. You admire their work, but they're not their values and principles and character traits are all off. There's that dissonance. So I always liked when I would find out, like I'm really finding out, I follow tennis, and I'm really finding out that Coco Gauff is really a great person, not just a great tennis player. She's a really fine person and has really strong values and principles. I love that. Like, I love working for people who are congruent with their values. Like, they say one thing and then they do it. They don't say one thing, but, make a quick buck by doing something that violates those values. So I always find that to be the most important thing about people that I work with, the most important thing about my family. So that's really been important to me. You guys have any stories that you have or anything like that? Um, or let me ask the question, like what famous people do you follow that you also found out that they're great people? And there's a lot.
One
It's not just Coco Gauff. There's a lot of people like that.
one person that comes to mind for me is whether it's everything I've ever heard was Keanu Reeves.
Hmm.
Respectful, very compassionate, very sincere, genuine, has integrity, doesn't overstep his bounds. He doesn't even like when he's in a um, taking a picture with a woman, he doesn't even touch her. He has his hand behind her back, but doesn't even, it's not about that. And I think his just whole moral compass is right on track. I mean, there's pictures of him sitting with homeless people, just talking with them, doing kind, generous acts. I mean, that's a person I think as a role model that, because fame and that could go to your head and money. And he just seems very humble, very sincere, very genuine, and just someone that I admire. Just everything I've ever heard from his fellow co-stars have always said just that type of person that he is. So
Yeah,
he
there's
comes to mind.
100%. There's another one, The Rock, Dwayne Johnson. Huge, huge, famous, zillions of, makes, 20, $30 million a pop for movies, got well over nine figures in his bank account. Really, really great guy. Humble, helpful, tries to lift other people up. Every time he's on a movie set, he's trying to make it better, make everybody better. Great values and principles. And it's that resonance. Well, there's three, and there's probably 3,000 of them. So, anyone else come to your minds?
Taylor Swift is another one. I mean, also like you said, makes unbelievable amounts of money, but everywhere she goes, she donates. When her shows are in a place, she donates to a lot of homeless shelters, for children. And then when her tour finished, she paid very well everyone, not only the dancers, but even the people who did the stages, people who drove the trucks, everyone like gave them a bonus on top just so they felt appreciated. And I thought that was a class act, just someone who could just, has so much but also shares so much. So she also comes to mind for me.
Hmm. Josh, can you love to have your thoughts on that if you want to pop on, if you're in a spot where you can do that. Yeah, so Josh said,
I'm in a
oh, go
spot
ahead.
where I can do it. I just don't want to get into it. It's too political. We don't know the truth between about all these celebrities, especially Taylor Swift and The Rock. I don't want to get into a debate about it. I'm just saying you have to see both sides.
That's true. And what I'm saying is, and I hear you because I hear you and I see where you might be going with that. But here's what I think, right? So I'm watching, a football game, and this guy's just amazing. Like, wow, holy mackerel, got grit, determination, wins the game, really talented, really skilled, lifts up his teammates, and then you find out he's a jerk. Um, that's the dissonance that I mean, look, I loved watching the football game. I love watching this guy, a great person. When I find out that he's not a nice person. Now,
But you
what
also can't judge people off of one sentence too. Like somebody could be having a bad day and maybe snap on somebody, and then it's on camera, and then that person gets labeled a jerk. But 99% of their life, they're kind, and they may have just slipped up. We shouldn't be judging these people even like that at all.
yeah, I think that makes sense. It makes sense. So it goes back to yeah, you bring up a really good point. You can control yourself, right? And you can't control what other people do. And you're also correct. You can't really judge other people. But having said that, we do have to choose people, for example, in business that we do want to work with. Um, I was always in sales, and if I really didn't like a person or they said things I didn't like, there were times that when I would have done business with them anyway because it was a contract and I was going to make a commission. Now there are times where I would simply drop someone like that. So I do make decisions based on values of other people, the values. I try to hang out with people that have positive values. Um, and I don't enjoy or don't stay with people who I see over time don't have the same values or don't share the same values with me. But I see what you're saying too. Like we don't really know what's in another person's heart, and we shouldn't be judging them. So yeah, I guess that like I'm talking about people that I like I really enjoy their work. I'm talking like famous people. And you're right, we don't know the famous people, but if
I
I
can add on to kind of what you're saying, and generally speaking, I like people who come from hard backgrounds because they're typically going to have. If you come from a hard background and you can remain kind, generous, selfless, um, if you can have all those values and build that character coming from a very difficult background, then I think that's special. Just so generally speaking, I do like celebrities that I see that are like that. That's the only thing I'll say on that.
Yeah, and the other thing is to become a celebrity like that. Sometimes I don't know, like I don't even, yeah, I think you're right, and you open up a really important point about knowing other people, what's in their heart, judging other people, or even putting a label on them. Um, so you can't control what they do. And the other thing too is even ourselves. I have strong values, but I have done things I would rather not tell you about. Um, over a long period of time, over a year, 2 years, 10 years, a career, a lifetime, we've all done things that are counter to our values and maybe not proud of, and maybe wouldn't want to broadcast to stand up and broadcast to the world. So you're also right.
And there are so many examples of people being falsely judged. Like, do you remember? I don't know how many years ago it was, but maybe 10 years ago when Justin Bieber was coming up and he got really famous and he was like 18, 19, 20 years old, and then the whole country hated him and then thought he was, you don't remember that?
No.
So, in that now the truth is coming out that he was abused by the pop industry, mainly Puff Daddy, and just being in that. celebrity spotlight, all the abuse that they have to go through. And then obviously any 18, 19, 20-year-old kid is going to lash out. But that's just one example. And then what we're finding out now is um, all these celebrities, all these celebrities are just human. They're nothing special.
Yeah, but some of them are high value, high character people. And anyway, but you're right. But you bring up a really good point because you can't label somebody with one word. People are much more complex than that. And now let's take it though to organizations because organizations are also like that. They over I like, and you said, John, you bring up a good point. It's about volume, right? If an organization over and over and over and over again does the right thing, then they do one thing wrong. There you go, Josh. We all judge them for the one thing wrong they did. We don't know the other 999 good things they've done. And it's the same way too. An organization could be working against our values and principles and then do a nice thing, donate money to something or put their name on a stadium, and we think they're great. Yeah, it's more. Yeah, I appreciate that, Josh. It's more layered than that. It's more layered than just a label or a judgment or my judgment about a person. I would ask you to look into Coco Gauff, though. She's a real example um, of someone that and she's only, I'd say, 21 or 22, maybe 20, somewhere in that age range. She started playing professionally when she was like 16. And think about the pressure of on her and the pressure like that. That's extraordinary. And for her to remain consistent in her values. So I'll hold her up as an example for sure, because she doesn't have, if we watched every little thing she did over the next 30, 40 years of her life, I think she would be consistent, but I don't know her. And you're right. You're right to not idolize these people or put an image on them that we're not sure of, that we don't really have all the facts. But you're right. But I do believe that it always is, and I'm going to stand by this. It's always encouraging to me when somebody that is really elite, I'm particularly in sports, when they're really elite and they're really impressive and they have the values that back it up. Fernando Mendoza just won the Heisman Trophy. He's another example. Just a fantastic kid. I actually saw a film when he was in high school. He was a star in high school when he was 16 years old, maybe 15 or 16 years old. He had just won the whatever championship, and they did an interview. A high school kid interviewed him, and he was just complimenting his front line, complimenting the defense, complimenting the coaching staff. Really understood that, just a really high integrity kind of a kid. So there are people like that, and I guess I'm human, so I guess I wouldn't say judge them, but I do latch on to people that I appreciate their values. But anyway, so what are some values and principles that are highest to you? Just write down 5 or 6 of them on your paper, on your journal, and just keep those in front of you. And I'm writing mine down. I'm going to share mine in the chat. Let's do that. what I found is if you're not clear about your values, if you don't articulate them, if you don't write them down, if you don't like put them in front of you and become, visually aware of them, mentally put them in your conscious mind. If you, oh yeah, I've got values, and you never really talk about it. What are some values too in your family? I know we're all here, I'm a grandparent, I've got grandkids, so I'm not actively, parenting a household of children. But I always used to think too that the values there were very important too, like the values of your family, not just the rules, but what was really important in your family growing up. Mhm. And I think if you what I found, and I wrote it in the book, in the Cycle of Mind, if you're not clear about your values, you don't really have any. If you don't articulate them or live them, or if you're not clear, like a company, they put up a mission statement and then they never really look at it again. Or a company will put up their values on their website and they don't operate according to those values. They just don't. Um, And so what I found, and particularly what we're doing with this AI company and with the collective, is we are very clear about our values. And every decision, every conversation, there are conversations where we don't talk about it, but when we are making a decision, and why did we do this? Why are we doing that? Why are we promising this? Why don't we promise them that? Why can't we do this for them? It all comes back down to, well, we want to give them a five-star service. We want to make sure that we're flexible with our technology. Aligned beliefs and actions. That's the best way to say it. You can't be aligned. Your actions will never be aligned with your beliefs until you're aware of your beliefs. Values are different than subconscious beliefs. Like subconsciously, I would, I just like to be generous, right? I feel subconsciously like I want to help the people around me. So that's a value that I have, but it stems from a belief. But when I brought it to the surface and I said, I intentionally want to be generous, all different kinds of experiences happened to me. I started to realize, yeah, I was about to give a tip to the waitress and I cheaped it out. So I'm not generous. I say I'm generous. I think I'm generous, but here there were real examples where I wasn't, and I was able to see that. And I didn't want to give that because then I wouldn't have it. So generosity was important to me, but it actually wasn't. I wasn't living aligned to that, and I wasn't able to align with that until I brought it out to the front and observed throughout the day how I was veering off of that value or I was aligned with that value. But if you don't say it out loud and you don't make it an intentional effort, you'll never hit that target. Integrity, gratitude, self-reflection, generosity. Integrity is a great word. All those are great words. Integrity is a really great word. Um, Being aligned, integrity is that's what I was talking about. Being aligned with being not only, well, alignment and actions and beliefs aligned. So let me encourage you on a daily basis. I look at it every day. I can't say I write it down or think about it every day, and I need to do that. And the only way you can attain a certain value, let's say generosity, is by measuring yourself against that value every day. Thinking about generosity in the morning. I am the kind of person who's generous and shares what I have. I'm the kind of person who lifts other people up. I'm the kind of person who, right, if you think about it, write it down every day. Then at the end of the day, rewind and say, how did I do today with my generosity? You'll start to see all the different interactions you had, all the different opportunities you had, and you can see, okay, this case I was generous, but in this other case I didn't do it. Like, why did I not do it? It's doing it, complying, aligning with your values is important, but also seeing yourself when you're unaligned with your value, seeing the mistakes that you make is also important because it's through those mistakes that you can start to do better the next time. And again, if this is what a coach would do, but you've got to be your own coach. You've got to be your own manager. You've got to make your own decisions for yourself, and you've got to, build your own alignment and align your behaviors. But I think it's really important to say it out loud on a regular basis, be clear about it, write it down, say it out loud, and then measure yourself as events happen. Measure yourself against that. Was I totally honest there? Huh, interesting. Yeah, I was. Or, yeah, I didn't. I said this. Maybe shouldn't have said that. You can't really improve. It's like a self-correcting guided missile. The missile starts out, it has a goal. If you don't have a goal, you'll never get there. So generosity would be a good example. If you want to be a generous person, it's important to you to be a generous person. I think of myself as a generous person, then that's my goal. And as you go off of that, you're able to self-correct, but then it corrects a little too far, and then you got to correct again. And that you keep going back and forth, but what's important is you're going on a line. You're going towards somewhere. You're moving your mind towards intention. You got to figure out all the time what your course is and if I'm on course or off course. If you don't think about it, you don't think about it. And that's really important, particularly in the work we're doing in the collective with, parents groups and support groups and meditation groups and all of that. Why are we really doing this? What's our goal? What's our intention? What values? We're going to do all this work, print books, do workshops and seminars. What's guiding us? Where are the guide rails? And the guide rails have to be really, really clear. We're here to help people. We're here to, be generous with our time and our effort. We're here to really lift them up. We're here to listen and be patient with people, really change lives. And what are we not here for? We're not here, you know, for people to pull us off track and be negative or angry or whatever. So we're not here for certain reasons too. So we have to be really, really clear. I've always felt like what I've discovered in life is that particularly in work situations and business situations, and I'm in sales, so I've always met, lots and lots of people every week. Values and principles are the most important thing. I'll also tell you another trick in sales, and this has to do with breathing and regulating your nervous system. In sales, the most regulated person wins. The most regulated person wins in a business relationship. If somebody's nervous and off base and constantly stressed out, I have a big advantage being balanced and calm. Some people are more anchored than I am. They have an advantage in that conversation. So the most regulated person wins. And it's the same thing with parents too. You've got to regulate yourself as a parent, otherwise your kids are going to be chaotic and all over the place. The other thing I want to talk about, thank you for that. I think we got a lot out. Let's summarize. Let's make a master list. Honesty, kindness, generosity, respectful, humility, compassionate, helping others, patience, generosity, health, honesty, integrity, gratitude, self-reflection, generosity, authenticity, honesty, healthy, and kindness. Honesty is a whole, man, we could talk for 2 hours just about honesty. That's a big one. Because what I found is there's a lot of different layers of honesty, a lot of different layers of honesty. Um, a lot, I don't have words for it. There's a lot of different layers. And the other thing is, and I heard this is Chinese wisdom. A small white lie is a white lie is a small price to pay for peace and harmony. A small white lie is a white lie is a small price to pay for peace and harmony. So that's another thing. Honesty is a very interesting topic, and integrity and consistency with that. That's a really interesting topic, which bubbles up for me. Yep, it bubbles up for me because I need to do some thinking about that as well. Because honesty, integrity, consistency, not deviating from that even in small things, um, is a powerful thing, and it's a really powerful trait in leadership. That's probably the most integrity is probably the most important factor in leadership, in my opinion. The next thing I want to talk about is our subconscious. Okay, so we talk about let's do the fourth dimensional meditation, and let's look at this from a different perspective. So imagine we're on this plane and we're taking off. And the plane rises, the cities get smaller, the people get smaller, the cars get smaller, but we go into the clouds and it's just dark and gloomy, nothing around. And we pop out of the clouds and it's blue skies all around, limitless. Anything is possible. No one's stopping us, nobody's playing defense. All things are possible. The clouds below, that's mind. The third dimension is a vibrational dimension, a dimension of mind. That's our lowest vibration. And we can see our own bodies, we can see our own life track. But here is where we can start to drop instructions to ourselves. Here's where we can consciously decide how we want to go through life. Because if we don't give that body instructions, it just operates subconsciously. It operates without any real guardrails or conscience. It operates subconsciously. It's operating off of the deeply held beliefs. And there are positive beliefs in there. So subconscious beliefs aren't all negative. There are positive self-beliefs that you have as well, which are important. But it's these beliefs that you've been carrying that guide you. And what we need to do is we need to change the subconscious. We need to get deeper. We need to get these positive values, these positive ideas about ourselves, these positive goals and things that we want to focus on. We need to get those positive values from this fourth dimensional verbal plane where we can understand the values that we want, and we want to indoctrinate or percolate or insert those values into the subconscious. And we don't realize you can't really make changes in that person until you choose a new value. And in the cycle of mind, rather than choose a material thing to pursue, because pursuing a material goal will disrupt your life. So you got to think of that three-dimensional avatar down there as having a comfort zone. It does the same things over and over and over again. Not only does the same things, it acts the same way, it speaks the same way, it says all the same things over, it reads the same books, it watches the same channels over and over and over again. It's in a groove, it's in a comfort zone. And the only way, what I said in the cycle of mind, rather than try to do material things, we would try to disrupt that comfort zone by choosing new values. For example, generosity is a good example because most people are in a comfort zone where they want to hold on to their money. They don't really want to give their money out because if that I give too much money away, then I don't have it. So generosity is a good one because it forces you, it literally forces you, it forces a disruption. And the goal is to choose new values, new ways of being, new word tracks that disrupt the old way of being. Like, for example, starting a meditation habit's another great example. Your comfort zone will say, we'll give it a shot. It'll allow you to meditate once. It'll allow you to meditate twice. You try to go to meditate the third time, and this voice in your head, which is coming from your subconscious comfort zone, is saying, you don't need to meditate tonight. You already meditated today. You already did your deep. Yeah, you don't need to meditate tonight. You're tired. It's 1 a.m. You should just go to sleep. And it's very logical. All sorts of great reasons why you don't have to meditate today. And that's your comfort zone trying to pull you back from what you really want to do. So you have to understand when you start a meditation habit, it isn't going to be easy because as soon it's easy the first time, the second time, but now it's not new anymore. And all of a sudden the comfort zone says, I don't want to do that. I don't want to embrace this new way of being. I'm pretty comfortable like this. And you have to understand how powerful this comfort zone is. It's subconscious. It will defeat you. It's subconscious. It's all powerful. It's going to hold you back. So the only way to create a new meditation habit is to be very persistent, very diligent, be very intentional, and deal with all the disruption. Deal with the first time your body says, no, you don't need to meditate tonight. Well, I'm going to meditate anyway. You know what? All this disruption and all this inner voice, I'm the one that made that happen because I decided to meditate. I decided to do something new and different. And making that decision and sticking with it, and again, why a group is so helpful to have other people that are in it with you, you're not in it by yourself, to do that there's still going to be disruption. Maybe it'll be easy for you, but there was still disruption. Maybe it'll be impossible for you. Like you just can't do it. Your subconscious just says, no, no, we're not meditators. We don't do that. And the only way to create a new habit is to continue to do it, observe the disruption, and eventually, when you do this enough for small things and big things, you start to recognize that you're creating your own disruption, that every new decision you make, every new habit you want to start, even every new relationship that you start, or let's say you want to, do a volunteer thing at the Y, once a week. Yeah, you'll do it once, you'll do it twice, and there'll be all kinds of reasons why you don't want to do it. But the more you do it, you're creating disruption within yourself. So you start to look at disruption as a positive. And eventually, when you start to disrupt more and more of these subconscious boulders that you're holding onto, it's hard to let go, you start to realize that your whole job is to disrupt and shift and let go of all of that stuff. First, you got to let go of the first thing. You got to disrupt one thing, but you don't realize I've disrupted this one way of being. There's 999 other things that are holding me down. So you've got to be like a professional disruptor. Like you have to want to put yourself out of your comfort zone. And that's another aspect of successful people. They recognize that they're in a comfort zone and they push themselves beyond their comfort zone. They're very comfortable with disruption. In the Navy SEALs, during their training, it's the hardest training in the world. They push them literally to the brink of death. It's the impossible training. Their mindset is embrace the suck. Yeah, I already know it's going to suck, but that's okay. I already know I'm going to be disrupted. And here's the thing that I've learned about disruption. Disruption it's hard and it feels very uncomfortable and it feels very out of balance and it feels not confusing, but disruptive is the only word I can say. Like I'm having a very disruptive day. Like let's say I want to do something new. So I start something new and all of a sudden a day or two later, all the consequences of all this new stuff start to now I got to do this. I don't know, five other things I have to do. All of a sudden, like starting in this AI company, I started it. I was really excited. All of a sudden, oh, wow, that's a lot of work. I have a lot of stuff I have to do. And it's that second stage of disruption that you have to work through. And then the third stage of disruption until finally what happens is when you disrupt yourself enough and you're consistent and intentional and persistent and consistent over a long period of time, you still have a comfort zone, but now it's a higher comfort zone. I'm now comfortable with this new habit. I changed. They still need a comfort zone. It's the way we are. It's the way our bodies work, the way our routine. We need habits. We need routines. We need consistency. Children in particular need consistent, repeatable routines. So we need a comfort zone. It's just, is it a comfort zone sitting watching TV for 8 hours a day? Or is it a comfort zone getting out and walking and doing deep breathing? Either one, right? It would be hard for someone who's a walker and an exerciser and a deep breather to just all of a sudden sit and watch TV for 8 hours a day. That would be uncomfortable for them. For someone who watches TV for 8 hours a day, getting outside and walking and deep breathing and exercising and stretching, that's something they can't even imagine themselves doing. So what they have to do is just start and be consistent. And the more consistent you are, the more this stuff starts to disrupt and break up and dissolve. And as I say, the minute you disrupt a subconscious belief, the only reason a subconscious belief has power over you is because you're not aware of it. It's very powerful and it's pulling you down or pulling you in a certain direction and you're not aware of what's happening. The minute you disrupt it, it doesn't like that. It's going to pull you back, but you keep pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing. All of a sudden, it's now time. Now we're going to have a showdown. I want to do this. You don't want to do this. So now we're going to have a showdown. As soon as that belief gets disrupted and pops up to the surface, it doesn't hold any power anymore. It's gone. That's how you change your subconscious. You can't go in and do therapy for the next 30 years and try to figure out all these subconscious boulders and densities that you have. That's therapy. You'll go there for 30 years and you'll still have these deep subconscious things. What you need to do is different. You need to take new actions, specifically opposite actions that you know are going to disrupt this subconscious. So if you're lazy, you want to be active, active, active. And this lazy thing is going to say, all right, I'll let you do it once, but I'm kind of getting tired of you being active like that. I don't like that. I want to stay like this. Now the showdown begins. Continued consistency all of a sudden will shake this thing. It's going to get really pissed off and it's going to say, no, we're lazy. And as soon as the subconscious rises, it holds no power over you. And this is very real. This is very real. I'm not, this isn't theory or philosophy. This is how you change slowly, day by day, week by week, month by month, year by year. It's how you transform yourself into a values driven person, a health driven person, an integrity driven person, a generosity driven person. Because all of these things in general is not how you are now, right? You're all, I don't want to do any of those things. That's not me. But I want to be like that. Something, my consciousness, something wants me to be a better person. And so keep it up, disrupt, observe the disruption, and eventually start to realize that those disruptive days are nothing. Once the disruptive days are past, because they will go away, once that day is past, you're now at a new plateau because you've disrupted and made significant changes. You should have already, I'm sure all of you have experienced this. You push and push and push. It's very disruptive and confusing and doesn't feel right. But then the next day comes, you wake up the next morning, and now you're at this higher level and you've dealt with all the subconscious things. And it takes that disruption. It's uncomfortable, but it's an important part of the process. Does that resonate? This idea of disruption and being uncomfortable, pushing yourself beyond your comfort zone? Good. All right. There you go. You know what? We did and we can do this again. But this is now 2 years ago. It was 2 years ago, February. So it literally is 2 years ago exactly. There was a group of 7 people and we did a 10-day no sugar challenge. 10-day no sugar challenge. And I was like Breyer's ice cream every night, candy around the house. Ate sugar all the time. And we did this 10-day challenge. And what I found was by the third day, I didn't really want to eat sugar anymore. By the third day, I didn't want to eat sugar anymore. Had I not been working with these 6 or 7 other people, I would have done it for a day or two and gone right back to it because it's just something I'd been doing for 100 years. Um, so this no sugar challenge was huge. So number one is take a challenge with other people. And number two, after a few days, like you just said, Liz, you're on a whole new level. Like what I did there was no caffeine, no caffeine, no coffee. I guess why would I say that's a bad, that, it's not a, obviously not a bad thing, but I do drink a cup of coffee in the morning, but only one. And I don't really like coffee. The only reason I drink coffee is because I put Shilajit in it and I squeeze some liquid ashwagandha in there. I use it more as a vehicle to get my minerals and vitamins. Um, yeah, but once you do something for a couple of days and a couple of weeks, you got to push through the disruption. Once you make it for a couple of weeks, this new thing starts to thread itself into your subconscious very slowly. And if you keep doing it for another couple of weeks, all of a sudden, this is the new habit. This is the new normal. This is the new comfort zone. Now you can't see it. Like, let's say meditating, Brian, double down on daily meditation. Um, that evening meditation, I couldn't imagine going to sleep. Like I just can't. Or if I even like if I were traveling and staying in a hotel or someone, I would just like, go to sleep and then I'd say, wait a minute, I didn't meditate. Like there's something inside me now that compels me to do that meditation. I'm now subconsciously, I don't even know why, but I have to meditate. I have to. Now, I'm particularly diligent with the evening meditation. My mornings are different. Um, I guess I have work to do too. And that's another thing. And I want to tie all of this back to what we talked about earlier too. Um, is, I'm not perfect. Maybe one day for a minute a day, like, wow, I really, really figured it all out and I feel perfect. But that's just a fleeting moment. And this is the thing with teachers and gurus. And it goes back to what you said, Josh. We can't idolize people because you don't really know them. So I want to just share with you, I'm definitely not a perfect person. I say that every time, and I mean that. Like I'm pushing myself to be better all the time, have up days, down days like everybody else. I'm not perfect, so I really don't ask people to follow me. But what I realized we needed to do is we need to create a collective that is more perfect than any one of us. The collective is where we hold on to these higher values. The collective is where we always are pushing ourselves to be better. The collective it's like a magnet that draws us up. It's not me that's drawing you up. It's you being a better person. It's the ideals of the collective, the values of the collective. So we want to create an organization. We're creating an organization which is, to use, I guess I say this loosely, more perfect than any one of us really ever could be. Because in religions, you're following a person who's perfect. And, of course, the person isn't perfect if they're just like everybody else. But so it's one thing to follow a person, a guru, a teacher, but you have to understand that guru, that teacher isn't perfect. And so what we're doing is a little bit different. We're creating a collective where we can contain the best things about us. We can contain the best things about our values and principles. No problem, Liz. So what I was saying, Liz, is that when people follow like a teacher or a guru, and I know some people say Alan's my teacher, Alan will tell us what to do. I'm just a regular person. I happen to have been studying this stuff for a long time, but that doesn't make me a perfect person. It doesn't make my circumstances perfect. I've just happened to have knowledge and personal experience with all this stuff, and I'm very happy to share it. And I also have a skill where I can convert it into words that people understand, or take these complex techniques and technologies and kind of create new little things that help people. So I do add value, but I'm not perfect. So you're not following me. But what we're doing, which I think is beautiful, is we're creating a collective where we are throwing all these perfect things in there, and the collective is a container for these higher values and principles. It's a container for higher intentions and higher aspirations. It's a container that challenges us to plug into it and be more aligned every day, as opposed to wanting a person to do that for you. You're now part of the energy and sustaining, and you're holding the space where this energy can continue to exist so that all of us in our weaker moments can plug in and have that higher experience. The last thing on my list that I wanted to talk about this morning is I wanted to talk about positivity and optimism. Positivity and optimism. There's a lot of negative things that are going on in the world. And there's a lot of negativity in the world. There's a lot of shrinking. There's a lot of um, pulling back. There, our power is expansion, right? So we want to expand. We want to be better. We want to be more positive, healthier, happier, more abundant. So we're cultivating in ourselves an expansive energy. Having said that, there are lots of things that impinge on our feeling of expansion. All you got to do is watch the news. I would suggest you don't watch the news, but I also think it's important that you do be aware of what's happening in the world. So I think that is an obligation as a citizen. But we're expanding, or I'm personally expanding, and there's all of these things that push back on that expansion. Negativity, limitation, problems in the world, people are suffering, all kinds of things are negative energy that are pushing against expansion. And so the only way, there's a couple of different things you can do. One strategy is just to allow the negativity to just infiltrate and just say, well, I guess the world is negative, and I guess that's just the way it is. Sorry, it's not my fault, it's the world's fault, right? That's one thing, and that's certainly easy to do. And most people have fallen into this sense of worry and contraction and fear and concern and, anger and, people are pissed off about everything, right? So there's all that negativity there you go. Um, yeah. Um, not off TikTok either. I think it better to not have the news. But that's a whole separate debate. But the point is, you can program yourself to push out your own expansion, to push out your own optimism. John, you're the poster child for this. You're doing great work in that area. Optimism, positivity, feeling healthy, taking a deep breath, just taking one deep breath it's like an act of expansion. It's an act of abundance. It's an act of recognizing, all right, everything else is going on, whatever. I realize that we live in a perfect planet, oxygen, chi, prana. Let me take some of that in, noticing the good things in life. This is the challenge that each of us have. But keep in mind that our job is expansion. Our job is positivity, optimism, possibility. And we can't offer that to anybody else until we focus on our own expansion and our pushing our own boundaries up and out and positive. So be very aware. We talked, I think, Brian, you mentioned self-awareness. All of us be very aware throughout the day when we're expanding and we're optimistic, and be very aware when we're allowing negative thoughts to penetrate, or our own subconscious negative thoughts are pulling us in. So I'll leave you with this. Optimism, positivity, and expansion is your job today. Be optimistic, be positive, expand your world, push out on your values. Say, I am going to be generous. I am the kind of person who has integrity. I am the kind of person who's a hard worker. I'm not lazy. I'm a hard working person. I am the person who lifts other people up. Push out, because every word you say defends your perimeter, so to speak, and pushes your worldview, your abundance further out. So I want you to focus on expansion and use these values to build fences that are further out, more positive, more generous, more healthy, more abundant, more optimistic, higher integrity. All of these things expand your limits out. So I want you to use that image of internal expansion to allow you, because if you don't expand, then all these other things will press down on you, right? If you allow everything else to form your values, to form your moods, to shape your words and your thoughts, if you allow everything, it's too bad we don't live in a positive world. The world wasn't always quite this negative. I guess there were always pockets of negativity, but there were several hundred years in our past, and who knows going back beyond recorded time. There were times in recorded history where civilizations were peaceful, world trade was flourishing, um, people trusted each other, and ships would come in different ports and take goods from Africa to Asia to, I mean, there was a time in the world where when you would have grown up, you would have been given positive values. But in the world we live in today, what we see shrinks us and pushes us in. And so you want to be expansive. And I'm telling you, just taking a deep breath pushes out. It pushes your expansion out. Being optimistic, being excited about the future, looking at your kids and seeing the great future that they have, the things you love about them. Because you can look at your kids and see the things you don't like about them. You can worry about their future. You can choose to be whichever way you want. But if you don't push out intentionally, the world will shrink you down. And I just mean it'll just weigh you down. So that's what I wanted to share today. Thoughts, comments?
I love that message. That's a great um, message for me to think about. I mean, I'm trying to write it down. The world will, what did you say? The world will push you
If
back
you
down.
don't push out, like if you don't every day, every minute, like if you're not pushing out, the world is shrinking you. The world is defining you, and the world that is defining us is not a positive. It's not like positive definition. They're defining you at the lowest level. They'll shrink you right down to fear, worry, anxiety, anger, shame, you name it. All those things, the world will push that in. They'll give their judgment of you and they'll tell you what to think. But they have no actual power over you because you have the ability to expand yourself. And I think expansion is the word that I think resonates with me as the most important thing that you can do is expand yourself. That's why choosing your own values is important. Choosing the people you hang around with is important. Choosing the ideas, the books that you read, the things you watch. If you're watching YouTube, it could be educational, it could be destructive, it could be anything. You choose the channels that you put into your mind. So all right, I think that's a good one. So think of expansion, values, principles, optimism. I think we covered some good topics today. Yeah. All right, guys. Thank you so much for being here. All you folks watching live on YouTube, thank you for being here too. All right, everyone. Have a great day. Take care. I'll see you guys tonight.